have been attending conferences in Kiev since 1995 occasionally, and met Professor Nikitin 10 years ago at the first of these conferences. He's a very impressive person. He has a long list of publications, and he has been chair of the conference this year and the last three conferences of this Applied Mathematics conference that I've been attending, and is a knowledgeable person. But he's also a very likable, very nice person. He has been here with us the last few days, and we've enjoyed very much association with him. And when we first started talking about this possible visit, the possibility came up that he could talk about the revolution in Ukraine, which was very much on the minds of everyone since last fall. And I knew I had seen some of the pictures from that, and this looked like a very nice opportunity for him to speak about this. The Institute of Mathematics, where he is right in downtown Kiev, not far from Independence Square and the other places where there were demonstrations in the revolution. And so he will be able to give us something of a first-hand view of the events that occurred. So I'm happy to introduce Dr. Anatoly Nikitin.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I should like to thank my colleagues from your university, for the first place, Professors Harrison and Sommerfeld, for their kind invitation, which made it possible my today meeting with you. It is my honor to tell you about Ukrainian Orange Revolution and about Ukrainian in general. I start with the statement that before the Orange Revolution, Ukraine was a kind of terra incognita for the majority of human population. It happens from time to time that I appears to be abroad in Western countries. And if somebody asked me, where did you came from? My reply, I came from Ukraine, results in the following reaction. Ukraine, what is it? Is it a city or a village? My explanation that Ukraine is an independent state, it is a part of former Soviet Union, results in the following reaction. Oh, now you understand, you came from Russia. And to explain that Ukraine is not Russia and is an independent space, and rather large independent space, was absolutely unsuccessful. Now situation has been changed, of course, but I should like to start my talk with you with the general information about the Ukraine. So, Ukraine, first, it is a Central European state. Moreover, geometrical centrum of Europe is placed in Ukraine, not far from its western border. Thinking geopolitically, we can say that Ukraine is placed in a very good place because it has a very long sea border from the one side and has a number of borders with Western countries and with Russia also. So you understand, geographically it is placed very good, and in particular now Ukraine obtained more than $1 million from Russia for the transit of oil by its territories. Second thing which I should like to say you that Ukraine is a rather large country. It is the second large country of Europe. following Russia. Some Ukrainian people say that in fact it is the first large country, the largest one, because Russia is mostly Asian country. And its surface area is equal to 600,000 square kilometers. And its population is approximately equal to population of France. That is, we have around 50 million inhabitants. Ukraine, geographically, topographically, Ukraine is rather flat country. More than 95% of Ukraine is flat, is plain. And also it is a very important feature of Ukraine that it have very rich soil. And in the main it is black earth. And it happens that more than 30% of world resource of black earth are concentrated in the Ukraine. And till now, some European teachers teach their scholars that Ukraine is a bread basket for Europe. And yes, in some aspects it is true, but now Ukraine is importing food, including bread. Then I can say that Ukrainian economics is rather good developed. I present you only two arguments. There are exactly 6 states in the world which are able to construct, to design and produce aircrafts. Only 6 of them. In the first place the United States, but Ukraine also is one out of the 6 countries. It is producing aircrafts, and in particular, I don't know today's situation, but some times ago it produced the largest aircrafts in the world. The second argument is that Ukraine was the main producer of Soviet cosmic crafts. And till now it produced cosmic rockets which are used to launch satellites. The second point is that Ukraine is a very nice country. Starting with Crimea Peninsula, when you can meet 1 kilometer high rocks near the very sea, and ending the Carpathian Mountains, which are very picturesque. You can find many nice places here. In particular, it has a number of nice rivers. Among them is Dnieper. It is the 3rd largest river in Europe. And you can believe me, I can be considered as an expert in river beauty because I have sailed many of them with kayak. Then Ukrainian population, Ukrainian people are rather, in average, are rather good educated. And I can say that they are rather talented people. And again, I will not present you exact proofs, but only mention few names. Maybe some of you are mathematicians and know Ostrogradsky, House Ostrogradsky theorem. So Ostrogradsky is was Ukrainian mathematician. Then I can mention names of Bogolyubov, physicist and mathematician. Landau, very well-known physicist. Korolev, the chief designer of Soviet cosmic crafts. All of them were Ukrainians. And also Sport example, maybe you know that brothers Klitschko are very good boxers. They're more popular in Europe, but they also are Ukrainians. But maybe it is a poor strategy to prove you that Ukrainian people are clever. You can ask me why they are such poor if they are clever. So one comments connecting Ukrainian churches. The majority of Ukrainian people belong to Orthodox Church, and this church is ruled by Moscow Patriarchy. There are two more Orthodox churches which are very young. They appear during last years, and they are ruled from Ukrainian patriarchs, and they are in conflicts and so on. They are in development now. In addition, essential part of population belong, the Western one, belong to so-called Greek Catholic Church. It is a kind of Catholic Church, but which is adopted to national situation, more or less. In particular, they tried long time ago already in Ukrainian, not in Latin as it was in the past in the Catholic Church. One more specific feature of Ukraine is that its population is not Ukrainian only. It was one of cornerstones of Stalin national policy to mix nations of Soviet Union. As a result, many of Ukrainian people have been moved to Siberia and replaced by Russian peoples, and especially in these years of industrialization, when a number of new factories appeared and the workers were needed. And as a result, now approximately half of Ukrainian people speak in Russian, and the other parts is speaking in Ukrainian. In principle, Ukrainian-speaking people understand Russian-speaking, but otherwise it's not true. Russian people, as a rule, don't understand Ukrainian. And one more specificity of our state is that, in fact, it didn't have any experience to be independent state. There were very short periods where state Ukraine appeared, but very short, 4 years, for 2 years, and so on. And only now, in 1991, after a referendum, when Ukrainian people say no to the Soviet Union, the new independent states Ukraine appear in the map. And from the beginning, its states appears in under very hard conditions. First, it inherits the economical depression of the Soviet Union. Secondly, you see, we had socialist economy. It was not too good kind of economy, but it worked. And after destroyment of the Soviet Union, everything was destroyed. I mean, economical connections with Russia, they are essential part of our connections. And I will not present you exact economical, macroeconomical data. I only will present you my personal feelings and recollections. First feeling was catastrophical inflation of national currency. I obtained salary which was counted in millions rubles, yes, any month. But it was equivalent to something between $20 and $30. Yes? But it was not enough even to be footed. But in my case, I solved this problem because I obtained some monies as royalties for books which were edited abroad. And one example, one of my students, a very nice and clever girl, by the way, gave lectures in technical university and to obtain additional monies, not only stipendium, yes. And she was paid, he obtained it for these lectures, 2 lectures per week, and she obtained $1 for month. Can you imagine these rates, yes? No, but being realistic, the monies which I obtained, it was approximately the half of the necessary monies to be fooded and dressed. So it was possible to buy much more for $1 than you can imagine. But in any case, it was bad time. And the first government of Ukraine was unable either stabilize situation or to make some radical changes. But step by step, life became better, and the second prime minister, who was Kuchma, maybe you know this name, and then he became the second president of Ukraine, and during his rule, economics finally has been stabilized, and it was possible to live, but not everywhere, not in any place of the Ukraine. In the capital, yes. By the way, capital of Ukraine is called Kiev, and it is very old city, 1,500 years old, and its population is equal to 3.5 million. So, a large city. But so in the capital, it was possible to live, a lot of job, and Ukrainian population moved to the capital to find a job and so on. And but in the villages, in country, situation was and continued to be dramatic. And again, only one argument: a quarter part of population capable of working is living abroad now. Quarter part. It means 7 million people of Ukraine are working abroad. And once I saw a special television program devoted to this problem, and it was demonstrated that there are villages without women, only men, yes, because the women are wanted in Italy, for example, to give help for old and ill people and so on. The men, no, they are still standing here, and little kids with fathers, no mothers. Mothers are producing monies abroad. In any way, in the 204th, we were expected to make a choice of new president. We were wait for elections, and many people hope that it is a chance to change everything, to elect a good president, a good team, which will rule the country. And I also should say you that the main problem with previous government, with President Kuchma ruling, was the total corruption. A number of, not number, but many of oligarchs appear, which in fact rule the country. And one of them, named Akhmetov, Rustam Akhmetov, is living in Donbass, and it was his pretendant to presidency, whose name was Yanukovych. And the other the pretendant of opposition was named Yushchenko. Yushchenko was a well-known politician. He was in the past the director of National Bank, and she was prime minister also, and he had proved that he have good abilities. It was exactly Yushchenko who stabilized Ukrainian currency, and people also remember that it was Yushchenko who returned state debts in salaries, because one of the very specific way to stabilize national currency was not to pay salaries to workers. You see? And indeed, the prices were stable because people don't have money and so on. And when Yushchenko became a prime minister, the economic situation was very hard. It was in the end of 80th of the previous century. And in fact, the country stands before default. And it was Yushchenko who proved to be able to stabilize everything, no default, currency is stable, people obtain salaries, and so on and so on. But on the other hand, this Yanukovych, he was an actual prime minister. And he used his position to increase the electorate poll. And he made many things. For example, exactly before the elections, the pensions for everybody were increased twice. So people say, oh, it's a good man, he like us, twice more salaries. And secondly, the salaries for military officers and for policemen increases 5 times. So again, good man. You understand pretty well that it results in increasing of prices immediately, yes, but people, some of them, especially old ones, think that maybe it is a good choice because salaries are larger and so on. And in addition, Yanukovych had very strong support of Russia. Russian President Yeltsin, Russian President Putin visited Ukraine twice exactly before elections, and he demonstrated his friendship with Yushchenko. And also I mentioned that Ukrainian Orthodox Church is ruled from Moscow, and can you imagine a situation when the priests say to people, if you, that Yushchenko is very bad, he is effectively antichrist. If you will vote him, you have a chance go to how does it called? So I forget this word. Yes, yes, exactly. And again, old people were afraid, indeed, because the priest says that, so they have followed him. And in spite of these things, the results of mass opinion polls say that only around 30% of population support Yanukovych, and more than half of population support Yushchenko. So I cannot prove it, but it looks like that. The power decide to poison Yushchenko. And exactly 1 month before the elections, he have been poisoned, and then it was established that it was poisoning with the using of dioxin. And can you imagine Yushchenko? He was very nice man for the first time. All Ukrainian women were in love to him. Yes, he was very charismatic leader. He had 5 children, in particular, and during 2 days he became very ill, very old. People who have difficulties with speaking, who have very unpleasant face, and so on and so on. And moreover, practically he was unable to continue pre-election activities. And he goes to Austria to one very good clinics, and his life have been saved. And then he returned back, looks very bad, unable to speak practically, then returned to Austria, and then again to Ukraine, and so on. How it happened, nobody can prove. But the known things are that, in principle, his food was controlled by security service, his own security service, yes? And only one case when food was not controlled was his meeting with some officials from National Security Service of Ukraine, you see? And after that he became ill. I don't know, it is not a proof, but a kind of proof, yes? And also the other main candidate, I mean Yanukovych. In addition, I had to say it from the beginning, but he is a crime person, criminal person. I again forget this word, maybe not mafia. He was locked, but it is not a good word. Imprisoned. Yeah. He was imprisoned twice in the past, and he was imprisoned for banditism and gang rape. So very nice person, yes. Moreover, he had a good chance to be imprisoned once more, because he had made one more crime, economical one. Moreover, it was such hard crime that he had a chance to obtain a death penalty test. Yes, but it was in the Soviet times, and one of member of Soviet parliament, well-known cosmonaut Beregovoi, helped him. He saved his life, and finally, this Beregovoi was his family friend and compatriot. He was also from Donbass, and he saved a good man. And moreover, this man became Prime Minister of the Ukraine. So the choice was evident for the majority of peoples. Yes, and one more feature, that mass media was completely controlled by Yanukovych and his team, and the only television channel which was controlled by the opposition, the fifth one, covered only small part of the Ukraine, approximately 40% of its surface area. And even this channel was closed. In fact, it was not closed, but the government made the decision that it should be closed. And its accounts have been arrested and so on and so on. And it happens exactly before the first round of elections. And in this case, the decisive influence was made by solidarity of journalists. So journalists of all television channels say no, we will not, we will have a strike if it will happen, and so on. And this fifth channel continues his broadcasting. And also there were some very unpleasant observations connecting with preparation of power to the election. For example, a number of soldiers were moved to Kiev. They surround Kiev. And there were not usual soldiers. They were good equipped men. I will show you pictures, especially adopted to win with demonstrants. Yes, and I know it from different sources. This fifth channel demonstrated these troops and so on. And in addition, some of my friends who live near Kiev in villages informed me that what has happened? We never had soldiers around, and now we have troops in forest and so on. And also, general question: why the power select Yanukovych as a candidate, as a pretendent? I can present two versions. No, first of them is that this Akhmetov, who was actual ruling person, because he is the main oligarch, the most rich person, make this choice, and it is all. And they had strong business relations, and he selected him. And the second version is more complicated, but maybe it is also true. Maybe this was a kind of provocation from side of Kuchma. He support a person who surely will obtain less voices than the opposite candidate. Yes, and people will go to the streets and say we don't agree, and Kuchma can say, okay, so it is a kind of revolution. I have to continue my direct rule as president because the people are unable to vote directly because of these crowds and so on. And these troops surrounding Kiev present an argument for this version, you see, because something was prepared. Something was prepared. And the answer of opposition was very simple and very effective. They called people to the pre-election mass meeting, and in this meeting I will show you the first picture. This. In what direction? Okay. So it is a picture from the first meeting of opposition. You see that many, very many of them, and in addition, and it was a lesson for the power, this meeting was very good organized. Any excess, such amount of people, and very kind, very clear, and so on. And it was only the starting point, and then such kind of meetings continues via this electional process, and the number of people increases and increases. I show you the second picture, this. More a bit, and more and more and more. And my feeling is that Kuchma simply was afraid. He understood that he can do nothing with such amount of people. He even did the truth. Yes, it is too many people to fight with them. And also you can recognize here a number of orange flags. And by the way, it was very good and very effective way for pre-election agitation. It was visible that this Yushchenko team have less money for this thing. And everything was organized in a very simple manner. It was declared that the orange color is our official color. And people simply go everywhere with orange band. Yes? And these orange bands appeared in any places, in trees, in houses, in cars. And officials struggle against this. I told to Professor Harrison already today that in my local district when I'm living, any night I recognized a number of these bands in trees, anywhere, in high trees, anywhere, a number of these bands. In the morning, everything was clean. Then we have the first tour of elections, and in principle we have around 20 candidates, but only 2 of them had real chances. And the results was that Yushchenko obtained more voices, but a bit more. And surely the results was falsificated, because if you compare them with results of mass opinion polls, I told you them, that 50 against 30 and approximately the same number of voices as the result. By the way, the results of mass opinion polls with the question, do you believe that Yushchenko win, was very specific, because only 15% of people believe that he will win. More than half of them support him, and only 15% believe that he can win in this situation. And then, after the first tour, again, it was visible, the manipulation was visible, because the results of these elections were declared only 10 days after the elections. Nobody understands the reason, but then it became clear that the reason was that Yushchenko had won, and the power saved a bit of time of uncertainty. So at least 10 days people were informed that Yanukovych obtained more voices, but 10% of bulletins are not developed. And it continues till days. And then, according to the election law, they should say the result, and they say it happened that the winner is Yushchenko, but with very small evolution. And in the second round, the formal results of elections was that Yanukovych win, and that more than 3 million people that it wins, and if you compare the amount of people who vote for Yushchenko and for Yanukovych, then Yushchenko had 3 million people more. Again, falsification absolutely visible, and the opposition officials make great efforts first to stop the procedure of legalization of the results, because it was evident that they are falsified. But the power tried to inform the community that everything is ended, that Yanukovych have to be inaugurated immediately. Yes, and it was stopped by these crowds. You see, by these people. They simply locked offices of prime minister, of Supreme Soviet, and so on. So the Ukrainian power was unable to work physically. They were unable to go to their offices. And also, just it is the faces. You see, usual faces, and many of them have orange colors, and more people. Here is written that city Lvov support Yushchenko, and this also kind of support, yes. Orange colors, and in any combinations. And I suppose you don't like these faces. You see, the Yanukovych team also tried to organize mass actions, and a number of people from Donetsk region were moved with the trains to Kiev, and in order to demonstrate their support, in order to organize their meetings. And it is very strange. I can't explain what kind of organization from the side of opposition was needed to pacificate everything. You see, there were no conflicts between these nice peoples and orange ones. The orange behave such kindly. They say, "Oh, you are from Donetsk. We are happy to see you. Let us drink together. Let us eat together. Well, say us what do you want. We will hear you," and so on. And any conflict practically. And also there were tents, and they were temporary in the main street of Kiev. Yes, and the main idea was to protect this part of Kiev against these Donetsk people. Yes, and the weather was of various kind. It was rather cold sometimes. Yes, and in continuous more than month and a half. And these serious peoples are preparing to fight if necessary. But the strategy of opposition was demonstrated here. They were decorated by orange bands, and usually it has been done by young and nice girls. Yes. You see, they are smiling. They are not. And in addition, a nice music was presented to soldiers, yes. And even our today Prime Minister, one of the main organizers of this revolution, Yulia Tymoshenko, also is involved to pacificate soldiers. And just a moment. This person is one of key persons in this revolution. His name is Poroshenko. He was the main organizer. He was the chief of this revolution. Yes. Here is a specific picture because here you can write in Ukrainian Institute of Mathematics, Kyiv. And she is one of my collaborators. And I will show you one more, just a moment. And just Professor Harrison know pretty well both of them. This guy, both of them are philosophy doctors. This guy is called Vyacheslav Boyko and Irina Yegorchenko. And this tent stands permanently during all these events from the beginning to the end. And the results, as a result, our institution obtained special plaque in which it was written that to certify that Institute of Mathematics was an active participant of Orange Revolution. And then we obtained a very specific situation. Formal results of second tour of elections was that the winner is Yanukovych. By the way, President of Russia, Putin, immediately congratulated him and recognized his win. Immediately after, next day after elections, when they weren't recognized by Central Election Committee of Ukraine. But people stand, people continue demonstrations, and sometimes it looks that people are ready, are going to enter to the offices when people deputies, it means that members of parliaments are working. And so, in fact, the work of the parliament was under very strong influence of people. They simply was afraid a bit that people go, the people enter and ask why you didn't make good decisions about the elections. Yes, and finally it was decided that we will have not new elections, but that the results of second tour will be forgotten, and the second tour will be repeated. And many formal and very important things have been done which protect manipulations of Yanukovych. In particular, all electional points in Russia were closed because it was proven that, you see, many of Ukrainian people indeed live in Russia. Yes? And the law says that if 20 of them should like to vote in Russia, it is necessary to open special office for them in the place when they are living. 20 people. And as a result, 60 election offices were opened, but when the opposition jurists verified this application of Russian Ukrainians, they recognized that it was in fact a copy of one paper, you see. In addition, some names were belonged to Russian citizens. So it was proved with the court that it was a falsification and these places was closed. Secondly, the opposition party found it be possible to find such amount of cars that will sufficient to follow all cars with voting bulletins moving from election office to the central election office, to control them by this way, see? And so on and so on. As a result, in the final, the third round, Yushchenko win with very high evolution. Again, with these 3 million people, but for his preference. And then we wait for a long time because Yanukovych and his team made applications that it is not okay, that in Russian people was unable to vote, and so on. And finally, the Supreme Court decided that everything is okay, and now we have new president Yushchenko, which is very popular. The majority of people support him. He formed a new and young team for a government, and the prime minister I saw you, Yulia Tymoshenko. What I can say about this team and what they are doing and what they are going to do. First, the team is very young. The average age is under 40. It's very unusual for our country. Secondly, it is natural that many of people of this team was active participation of the revolution. So it's natural. And people believe them, people like them, but also there are some doubtful points, let me say, because you see it is completely new team which have no experience in ruling. Only the prime minister and the president had such experience. For example, we have a vice prime minister for humanity. Yes, special position. And this prime minister is an expert in Ukrainian sex. It was the problem of his candidate dissertation. And in fact, he is the main person who decides now the questions with Ukrainian science in general. And also the Minister of Science have nothing to do with science at all. He is an expert in children education, so primary education and so on. But we will see. We will see what will be done further. Also some general points that the previous power was related to some group of businessmen which make this business with export of steel in the first place. The new government is under influence of another team which are oriented to export, to import otherwise, yes? And they import food mainly, chocolate for example, yes? And also the first actions of new government can be considered only as a direct support of this new team because taxes were reduced, and so people who would like to make businesses export have privilege. With import have privilege because taxes are reduced and so on and so on. But we will see. Now we have only 100 days experience with the new government. many things are made in good manner, and we believe that we believe them. It's very important. And very important thing is that now Ukraine have international recognition. In particular, it has visible support of the United States. By the way, maybe you know that Yushchenko is married with citizen of the United States. So now we are related. We are related. And so it is maybe the end of my presentation. We are waiting for the results. We believe to the government. We are happy that everything has been changing, but we will see what will happen in the future.